This is UMass basketball.
I know this. I'm the most animated coach that you've probably ever seen on my team.
Thompson in the front court. Thompson will lay it in. And one.
Hey, he's just being Frank.
That is right. It is time for another episode of Just Being Frank, coming at you from the Champion Center here in Amherst. I'm Jay Burnham, voice of the Minutemen, alongside head coach of UMass men's basketball, Coach Frank Martin. And Coach, I've got a list of things that we have to get to, man. You guys are keeping this team so busy. They've only been here a week.
When you start with your list, I know you get ready to open up Pandora's box, and you know I can't keep my mouth shut, so I'm getting in trouble.
No, we're going to have fun. We're also going to be joined by Coach Figger, who's joined your staff that you have an extensive relationship with. We talked about him on the last episode. And really the exciting thing here is you've got players on campus for the first portion of this summer session. So, you know, you're just over a week into having guys here. How are you feeling? How's this team vibing right now?
Yeah, it's been great, Jay. Last year we only returned 3 guys, and we had the trip to Puerto Rico. So that allowed us to kind of get to know all those players because we had real practices and then took advantage of the trip and all that stuff to get to know guys. Well, this year we've got 6 returning guys. So 7 if you include Raleigh Castanero, which you should because he's a part of this basketball team. So we've got more guys in place to help show the way, guys that are fully committed to who we are, what we're about, what we're trying to become. So I didn't want to shack all the players here. Please don't. I don't want any UMass fan to say, "Man, I can't believe he says negative stuff about the university." I'm not saying anything negative. There's not a soul on campus in the summer, and after the last couple summers, I felt bad for our players because they're on campus. There's minimal academic responsibility. I can only keep them busy for 8 hours a week, not a day, a week.
Right.
8. So they got a lot of free time. And then they're just laying around here. There's nothing for them to do. So I said, you know what, let's figure out a different way to do this summer. And came up with this idea of a 2-week boot camp. So they're not gone for 2 straight months. So we brought them in, and they've been great, man. So what we do is there's no academic responsibilities these 2 weeks. They come in, they lift weights. Tony, our strength coach, trains them really hard. We get them on the court so they can start understanding our terminology. We can get a feel for them, how they learn, and then we can work on fundamentals, which is what the game's all about. We think the game's about these plays and these, like, coaches draw up like incredible. I sit on X sometimes, Twitter, X, whatever the heck you call it these days, and I'll see people that I follow, so I read their stuff, and they put like, "Oh, I can't believe what an incredible play coach whatever ran." I'm like, I've been watching people run this play since the 70s. Like, what's so incredible about it? I'm like, but it's we got to help our players, their footwork, their passing, their shooting, their dribbling, and then the most important part, getting to know each other. Which is the vibe. And then the last thing we're doing, and Jake Hayden put it together, our director of ops. We've done some community service involvement function every single day for 9 straight days so far. And giving you the details of the whole deal, they have been incredible. I couldn't have asked these guys to be more enthusiastic for the weight room, for the court, and for going in. We had these guys at Maple Line Farms yesterday walking around in sludge. Like these are inner city kids. They're like, what are we doing here? And by the end, they were having the time of their life.
I saw that video of Rasul Diggins feeding the baby calf. A little hesitant at first, but he got in there.
It's been awesome, man. Like, whether it's been going into the elementary program in Springfield, in the inner city of Springfield, or the Holyoke. I can't. Oh my God, I can't remember the guy's name. He's a police officer in Holyoke. Played football here. I'm drawing a blank. Hispanic guy, Raphael, runs that summer league for the youth of Holyoke, and our players being out there for 2.5 hours with them. You know what's frustrating about some of these things is they got kids up to the grades, up to the functions, have kids or young people that are up to either 7th or 8th grade. Because of that, me and my assistants can't be there. That's like that to me is just like the most. It's absurd, man. We're trying to do stuff to impact young people in the surrounding communities, and we got rules about recruiting. Are you kidding me? Like we can, like, people are calling people and offering them money to come to school, and I can't go into a community center because there's a 7th grader in there to impact young people in the surrounding communities that come from neighborhoods like I came from. Like I don't get it, man. There's some stuff that just like that really aggravates me. That like. You know, I'm all for rules.
Who knows?
I'm not like let's do whatever we want, but that's ridiculous.
When we talk about the changing world of college athletics, and maybe we can put something like that on the table to change and make for the better when you are doing a lot of these community events. I was looking through this list. You mentioned the farm. By the way, we've got the milk here in the Champion Center right now. The guys had some cereal this morning. You went to the elementary school, car wash, Hooplandia, which was an event down the way, which brought back some prominent alumni as well. So it feels like there's some opportunity here for these guys to not only, mesh and gel, because you do have obviously newcomers coming in, but also making that impact in the community, which I think since something has been a point of focus for you from day one since stepping on campus.
Yeah, it's twofold. Number one, all these kids in our sport, I don't know how it's like in other sports, but in our sport, in basketball, the guys we recruit are all good players. Well, they've come up in an era where, because of social media and rankings, I want to be the highest ranked player, which is the most irrelevant stat of all time. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard about who's like. Last time I checked, they don't put one-on-one tournaments on television. So, like, that is the most irrelevant. You play for a team trophy in every level. But they've come up in an era where it's me, 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 me. And that's not fair to them because they don't live in a me. They were tennis players. Yeah, make it about yourself. They like you got to take the blame and the good when it comes when you're a tennis player. You can't hide. Or a wrestler or boxer, WWE, whatever, not WWE, MMA.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. It's the educational component for our players to understand how to be philanthropic, to give back. And then secondly, we're trying to build a program. And I said it when I got here. I can't worry. Jay, you and I have had some private conversations. And when I got hired here, everybody was like, you got to get to Boston. You got to get to Boston. You got to get. I said, my locker room's broken. I'm wasting my time going to Boston. We got to fix our locker room. That's what we tried to really, really focus in for the last 2 years. And when I mean broken, I'm not taking shots at players. I mean everything. Just the whole environment was not about winning in the locker room. We've had to reconfigure that whole mindset there. And that's a credit to our players that have fought and challenged each other to grow in that direction. So then this past year, we tried to start working campus a little harder. And now we're starting to work the communities in the surrounding areas. And I'm sure you don't, you're a pretty darn good listener, Jay. Like you don't just kind of share an ear. You actually commit your ear to listening. And one of the things I spoke about the day I got hired is based on where our school's located. Our fan bases in the heart of winter have to drive on country roads for an hour, 2 hours in the heart of winter. That's not easy to do to come see us play. Well, if we're going to ask our fans to do that, we got to go to them too. And that's been all part of building the program that we're trying to build.
Yeah. And, speaking of Boston, you are going, as we record this on Tuesday, you guys are taking the team to Boston on Wednesday. But I think your point is well taken, where it's saying, hey, look, there is a lot of support across the region for the program, but man, we got to start in Hadley and Amherst and East Hampton and Springfield and Northampton before we kind of grow this thing outward. So you guys have certainly done that. I think what was the reaction from the guys to, not only go to the farm, but I saw some of the pictures of them at hosting the car wash, right? I mean, it can't, I don't know, is it easy for them to just say, hey, we're going to put ourselves out there like that in the community, or is it maybe a little more hesitant?
Yeah, it's if this was their, like, where they grew up, it's easier. But like, they're all from other areas, and some of them are here for the first time, and and they're being asked to do something that I haven't even asked them this question. I will as the summer goes on. Have any of them ever done these activities? Has anyone ever asked them to partake in these activities, especially the new guys? The older guys, they understand, because I speak to them about it all the time, and they get it, that's been part of the vision for us to build here. But it's they've been, I'm telling, their enthusiasm, their energy, their willingness to give of themselves. Like I said, like, we ask fans to give of themselves to help us. Well, now it's the other way around. We're trying to give of ourselves to help the communities where our fans live at, and to build fans and build relationships. The same way people ask me, Jay, like, man, you coach them hard, man. I don't understand. Like, how can you coach them so hard? Because I care for them as human beings. And when you care about people, they allow you to give them structure and challenge them to grow, because they believe and trust in what you're doing. Well, it's the same thing that what we're trying to do with our fans. We're asking our fans to come in and give of themselves for us. Well, we got to go give of ourselves to them, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Okay, so before we get to Coach Figger, we've got.
Do we have to?
We certainly do. I've already.
Can we just cancel? Can we just cancel on him?
I think he's excited to come on and talk. Oh. You had mentioned last time. Okay, first of all, structure. You talk about 2-week boot camp, and then the guys will leave, and then what's the return rate when they come back, and then what's that stretch, the next stretch for them look like schedule-wise?
Yeah. There's a couple guys that were not here for this boot camp, and it's for no reason. It's not suspensions, or I told them to stay away, or they were going to a cousin's birthday party. Just couple of different reasons, and they're private. I'm not going to elaborate on them. But then the whole team will be here July 6th. I believe you put me on the spot. I'm going off the top of my head. July 6th, I believe, the first day of summer school, because then when they report back after the 4th of July, they're actually in school. I believe the first day of academics is July 8th. And then we're here to August 7th. A couple guys are just going to stay here during the 4th of July break, and just they can volunteer lift with Tony. I can't do anything with them on the court for that little window there, but they can volunteer lift, and so a couple of those guys are just going to stay here during that little window. But then through August 7th, and then August 7th we'll have a final summer workout. I have no idea what we're going to do for that month of workouts yet. We as a staff, after we get away from this week, we're going to sit down and figure out, now that we have a better feel for the players in the program, just offensive things that we need to do differently than last year, so we can start implementing that right now. We can't wait till October to do that. And then they go take a deep breath, man. And hopefully I get to take a deep breath. Hopefully there's a little spot in the Caribbean somewhere, Jay. It's like that just calls my name.
Yeah, August 10th. Let's call it.
Oh my God! So we can, we all got to go charge them batteries, man. Because once we show up here Labor Day weekend, now it's on, and it doesn't stop till sometime in hopefully late March sometime.
We'll be over at football practice right around then, getting ready for that first football game end of August.
Yeah, but Don's been on the Cape for the last 3 weeks. I just saw him the other day. He had all tanned up, looking ready to go. He's ready to match drills.
He doesn't tweet it out. He doesn't tell anybody.
Oh,
He's gone. Yeah.
he's ready for Matt drills like right now. Like it's he's charged up, ready to go.
Okay, so you lied to me last time, or maybe omitted some information. Last time
Oh, wow.
I thought we had our full roster, and then as a couple days after we recorded, Shadid Muhammad has been added to the team. This is a guy that initially went to Seton Hall, comes out of Southern Idaho. Give us some background as to how you guys connected with him and what his skill set might be.
I'm I'll speak once we get into next year a little bit more about the details as to um, why we added him and where the roster's at and blah 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 and all that other stuff. I'm not going to do that right now. Um, but yeah, it's funny how the world works. If you actually pay attention, there's things in front of you that you can. They're being put in front of you for a reason, and if you choose to not pay attention and omit them, then it goes right by you, and then you figure out like, my God, why, whatever. So I'm in the process of hiring Matt Fager. We because of some situations, we said we got to go get a big, and Brian Steele back in January has said to me, "Hey, there's a shot blocker in College of Southern Idaho. He's leading the country in block shots. You might want to take a peek at him because you've heard me say it 100 times. Rim coverage has been a problem for us.
Yeah.
For the last 2 years, not just last year, but the last 2 years, something that I wanted to be better at. And but I'm in the middle of the season. I didn't pay attention. I had no idea who was staying, leaving, all that stuff back then. So I just didn't follow up. Well, long story short, the head coach of College of Southern Idaho and Matt Fager are really good friends. Matt has signed 2 players off his roster over the last 2 years down where Matt was at. So during the office, the whole we got to add another guy kind of pops up. And Brian says to Matt, and remember, Brian played for us in South Carolina when Matt was my assistant coach, so they have a relationship.
Yep.
Brian says to Matt, "Hey, man, there's a New York guy at College of Southern Idaho that," and Matt says, "Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. You know, Jeff, the head coach over there, Jeff, and that's my guy." And one thing led to another. I got pulled into the recruitment right away. I want to say it was 10 days later. He and his family were here on a visit, and we hit it out of the park with him and his family. There's an advisor to the family who's a longtime basketball guy that he and I share multiple friendships. He and I had never crossed paths before, but old school, old soul, old school.
Your kind of guy.
Man with a purpose, and when he and I connected, we felt extremely comfortable with everything, and Shahid felt extremely comfortable with the opportunity, how we play, and what he's looking for in his future, so he can take that next step. And away we went, and I'm super excited. Jay. I've never 42 years. I've never coached somebody that has his length, his instincts for blocking shots, and his athleticism. I'm like, it's like, for me, I'm not into predict. You've been around me for 2 years now. Have you ever heard me say, I predict this guy's going to do this or this? I'm not into that world. I'm a bad promoter. I'm a great celebrate. Now, you want to celebrate now. I'm telling you now, I'm as fun as they get, but I'm a bad promoter. But I've never coached somebody that has the intangibles that this young man has. So I'm really excited to see what we can become.
Yeah, I think I read there, 7'4" wingspan, 106 blocks in 30 games, 29 of those starts. There's definitely like, do you think there's some instinct or recognizing the way plays unfold, anticipation that some of the great shot blockers have to have?
Yeah, when you go watch guys play, there's some guys that, like, every time that ball leaves their hands, you're saying that thing's going in. There's some guys that just pass the ball. There's an instinct to pass the ball. I'm not going to pretend to like be in Dan Marino's head or Tom Brady's head, but coaching allowed them to get better. But the instinct to see things, I don't know if that's innate or they I don't know where they learned it from, but it's not like Tom Brady became saw certain passes after 3 years in the NFL. He always saw the passes. He just had to learn how to read the defense or whatever it may be. Same way with shot blockers in basketball. There's some guys that they block one shot a game, but it's a, oh my God, block because he goes and gets it way over there. But he's got 7 other opportunities to go block shots, and he doesn't go after the ball for whatever reasons. Then you have guys like Shaheed and Daniel Rivera. They're instinctive, man. If they see that guy going to the rim, they have the ability to know exactly when to leave the floor to go get a ball and or to block shots on their own man. Like sometimes people think like Akil Watson, who also brings shot blocking. We were in workouts last week, and I can't remember who it was. It might have been Tariq. Somebody beat him, so now he's beat. But he didn't quit on the play, and he was able to like jump up and block the guy's shot. I think it was Tariq. Tariq shot at the last second, and from behind. Those are instinctive plays. We haven't had that, so I'm excited that we've added that to our team. I think it'll add a layer to our defense.
And you're getting me excited about this team because Jaden Jingay is one of the best defenders. We've already seen that, and he's proven that. Year 2 is going to be super exciting for him. Daniel Rivera, and now you add Shaheed Muhammad. I mean, you got some rim protection there, Coach, and I think there's some toughness. And I see some of Daniel Rivera's tape from last year. There's a certain toughness that a guy like him brings to the table. How much, I guess, from the competitive side, when you see guys, these practices, of course, obviously very early, is there a level of competition at this point that is guys are going after it as hard as they can?
It's Jay, like every time we go on the floor, there's a competitive energy that's a lot of fun to be around. It's just it's just fun, man. As I tell people when I recruit, I tell people all the time, my job is to put you in a place in life where you got to make hard decisions. And young people say, why do I want to make a hard decision? I say, because that means that you got to pick from a lot of different things that you really like. That's hard. If I told you, give you $100 or I'm going to punch you right in your nose, you're going to take the $100. That's an easy decision. As players, their jobs is to make hard decisions. That means that they do everything right. They're really competitive. They continue to grow as players. I have to figure out how to play guys when they do those things. Their jobs, if I'm losing sleep because the opponent, then we're not a very good team. If I'm losing sleep because I'm trying to figure out how to manage our team because it's so competitive, then we're a really good team because I'm having to manage internally rather than manage externally. I hope that makes sense what I just said. And my initial sense right now is we got some really, really competitive guys.
I should mention our podcast, of course, is brought to you by our friends at the Massachusetts Collective, helping grow the NIL opportunities for men's and women's basketball here at UMass, and that's certainly the future. And those that have partaken and participated in the Collective, thank you very much. And those who haven't or maybe on the wings, step on in. You can do so for as little as $10 a month, and there's so many fun opportunities, behind the scenes activities as well that help you connect with UMass basketball. Speaking of choices, Coach, if you have to go get an ice cream, say over at the Scoops at the Silos here in Hadley, what are you grabbing? What you got 10, 15 choices in front of you. What's the go-to?
It's one of the incredible things about living in Western Mass is all these farms.
Yeah.
And just parking on the side of the road and little huts at the farm selling ice cream. I just went on Sunday and it just started to sprinkle. And I said, I don't care. I'm standing out in the rain for this. I got a peanut butter Oreo ice cream.
Nice.
Holy wow. I'm a chocolate chip cookie dough guy, but I ventured, I like getting a little bit of different ice creams. I love ice. I can pizza and ice cream, Jay. You and I, Jay, I don't want to speak for you now. But if you and I were college roommates, I think we'd both weigh 400 pounds.
Yeah, we would not help each other out at all.
Beer, pizza, ice cream.
Let's go.
Seriously, I like holy cow. No, chocolate chip cookie dough is my go-to. I love chocolate chip cookie dough. But I taste them all. I love like when I was in Cincinnati, I got into the black what is it? Raspberry chocolate chip Grater's ice cream. Holy cow, was that good? Jay, don't make me
making decisions, coach.
Don't make me say stories about my younger days where I still partaked in the social activities. Ben and Jerry's. I would have been the lead NIL sponsor for Ben and Jerry's. I can tell you that. But now, being out here in Western Kansas, like those homemade ice creams at these farms, they're unbelievable.
Western Mass, yeah, and also the farm stands, you just get vegetables and whatnot. My wife finds it so amazing because we drive by and there's a farm stand with just a lockbox, and you put in $5 or whatever. You grab tomatoes, cucumbers, whatever they've got.
Hold on for a second. You did it to me again. I just said Western Kansas.
I tried to slightly correct you. Yeah.
This is like the third or fourth time in the last week you and I are speaking, and I refer to what this like Western Mass. I don't. My brain is like. I've been talking to Jacob Pullen and some of these old K-State guys a lot because some of those guys are looking for jobs.
Yeah.
And I've been. And I did a podcast with the folks back at K-State about 10 days ago or so. So that must be in my brain. But Western Mass, excuse me, Western Mass. Jay, you're supposed to correct me on these.
I tried to throw in a little Western Mass and then move on, but we got you. I do. Speaking of overall Massachusetts, the Celtics won the championship. They were at Fenway yesterday. They're still partying up, having a great time, celebrating. I know you have a relationship with Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah.
What did you think about their performance in the finals? And give us some insight as to Joe Mazzulla as a coach and why this worked out for them.
I listen to sports media, local, not so much national. Nationals become all gossipy and stupid. Local, a lot, especially when I'm out of season, because I end up dealing with the same people, so I got to understand how they're going to articulate their thoughts on my team. So make sure I can be as prepared as I can to educate them as to our team, so they can speak about. They got to speak about the things they believe in, but. I got here and they're like about breaking up Tatum and Brown, and they can't win together, and this and that and blah blah blah. I'm like there's a rite of passage to becoming a champion. It's not based on what somebody put on a piece of paper as to who's a good player. It's not based on fantasy sports where you just lump stats together. All that is irrelevant. None of that has anything to do. There's a rite of passage to winning. Those guys, when they got here, Brad Stevens brought those guys in. Danny Ainge, I believe Danny Ainge is the one that made the trade to get Jaylen Brown. Is that correct?
I think so. I think he's the one that orchestrated all the picks and got it all together. And then
that's what I thought. And then Brad has brought everyone else in and cultivated through his years of coaching, and then the guys he's hired to continue the building. And everybody, everyone thinks it's all about the parade, man. There's a lot of suffering and a lot of pain that goes in before a parade. and without the suffering and the losing and the bad days, the difficulty that has to overcome to be a champion doesn't exist. You go back and think to the I wasn't up here. I was young, but I was a Philadelphia 76er fan. And Dr. J's inability to beat the Celtics drove me nuts. But that made, when they got Moses Malone in 83, that made it even like funner, if that's even a word. And then as I started getting in the world as a young person and trying to get into the world of coaching and managing people, every team's like that. Detroit couldn't get past. You don't think they had good players in Joe Dumars, Isaiah, Rodman, Mark Aguirre, Lane Beer, Mahorn, John Sally? You don't think they were good? But they had to deal with a lot of, like, getting there and losing. Jordan, get there and lose. And Kobe, same thing. And then eventually all that heartache is what fuels you to go do more. It's what I've told our team this year, the returning players. I said, listen, we were here. Last year we took a step up. Now it's not about doing the same things. The bottom line, our season ended on a loss. We fell short of a goal. Well, we can't cry about it. Ain't no one going to come wipe our tears away other than ourselves. We have to do more attention to detail. We got to work a little harder. We got to be more efficient. We got to be more courteous. We got to have better leadership. And I keep saying we because it's me included. And so we can be better prepared for when a similar situation shows up next year. And that's what the Celtics did. And class. Brad Stevens, class. Joe Mazzulla, like last year when he gets thrown into the fire at the last second, doesn't have a chance to put his personality in camp and all that stuff because everything just went boom right before the season. Staff-wise, he was managing people that he was a co-assistant coach. He wasn't the head coach. And then everyone took jobs and people left, and now it was a scramble. They were one game away from going to the finals. But everyone spoke about Joe like he was intimidated. Man, let me tell you something. All right, and it's Joe's job to speak about himself, not mine. It's not, I don't know Joe like he's my long-lost best friend. Joe's dad, I met years ago through a mutual friend in Rhode Island, was a man's man. Joe played for one of my closest friends in Bob Huggins. Joe, 3 grizzly bears walk into a room that Joe's in, I'll bet money on Joe Mazzulla walking out. And it's just who he is as a competitor. The thing that's unbelievable is, think about it. He's at West Virginia. Where's West Virginia go? He's a player at West Virginia. Where's West Virginia go?
What, when he was there?
Big East champs, Final Four.
Elite Eight. Okay, all right. Who was on that team? Do you remember?
Kevin, I think it was Kevin Jones. It was Deshaun Butler. The head coach at oh my God, what's his name? He's the head coach at Radford right now. But they won. They won, and then he gets into coaching, and immediately he goes to Fairmont State. He wins, and then he's a part of the staff that Brad brought him on board with the Celtics, and he's a part of the staff for the winning that took place, the previous year. And now he becomes a head coach in a difficult moment because there's expectations, the same team, and there's only one difference. The assistant coach became the head coach. And they're down 3-0. And everyone was ready to basically throw him out in the middle of the Atlantic. And he stayed true to who he is, man, and his team responded and came that close from going back to the finals. And now they won it. He's Joe's about the right things. Joe cares about the things that are relevant and matter, and that's why you see his teams respond to him.
Are you ready for Coach Figger?
No.
He's ready for you. All right, let's bring him in.
No.
Dun, dun,
We gotta fix we gotta fix this computer there,
Oh,
Jay.
yeah. Did he just steal Coach Nelson's PC?
He must have. We're gonna have to like.
Does Coach Nelson have any
Oh
weak
my God!
files on there? Hey,
Oh my God!
What's up, fellas?
Coach, how you doing?
Well, I'm Brett Nelson right now.
Yeah, we were just saying we got to figure out how to change that for you.
No question.
I mean, Brett had a lot of hair on his head and no facial hair. You must have
Brett-
like just flipped it. Is your head upside down?
Brett was better looking. Brett's from West Virginia.
You're not too far away from where he's from now.
No. My right leg's longer than my left because I stood on the side of a hill.
Well, it's
Well,
he's
where'd you grow up, Coach?
Right on the Virginia, Kentucky, West Virginia border, right there in the mountains of eastern Kentucky. Kind of similar to surroundings that I'm at.
Jay. Brett lived on the eastern part of the mountain. Fig lived on the western part of the mountain. It's they share a mountain in common.
What's the name of your hometown and how many people were in your graduating class of high school?
Jenkins, Kentucky, and 62.
62. Coach Martin, how many people were you in your high school graduating class?
Holy cow! Hey, hold on. You put me on the spot.
I grew up here in Western Mass, 99 kids.
800, 860 or something like that. 862.
And you knew everyone.
Yeah, well, shoot, it's
Coach,
you know, Matt. Like when you're in a rural place, I assume I didn't grow up in a rural place. Schools are kind of spread out. Is that fair for me to say that?
Yeah, pretty much.
But when you grow up, you've been down there where I grew up and all that. When you're down there, people don't really move. And you go through elementary, middle school, the park, 15 and under, and high school with the same people. So and every year you're just in a different class with different people, but it's the same. Everyone's in the same pocket, and so you do meet a whole lot of people. And you've met. I think it was 862. You've probably met like 770 of them.
Probably. Yeah. No, there's been a lot of Miami High people I have met over the past 25, 30 years.
well, why don't you give us, Coach, first of all, welcome to Massachusetts. We're happy to have you.
I'm happy to be here.
No, we're not. No, we're not. Speak for yourself. Don't say we are happy. Say
How
I
did
am
you
happy
get connected with this guy? I know you've been through the ringer with him, but how did you get connected with Frank? Where does that?
Well, it started, I think, Frank, if I'm not mistaken, it started when Billy Donovan got the Florida job. We were working camp together. Donnie Jones, who was an assistant coach, and I went to school together, and Anthony and Frank went to school together. So we both had players that Florida wanted, and so we were invited to come to their camps, and that's how Frank and I met, and end up coaching. I think I had 5 kids from Miami High at Odessa Junior College.
Jay,
Something like that.
so Jay, I meet Matt. We work camp together, and I had a guy on my team that needed to go to junior college, and Matt's coaching junior college. So we leave camp. We didn't have cell phones back then. I guess there was cell phones. I couldn't afford one. So I had a beeper.
But what year are we talking?
We're talking like 98.
No.
Well, it started 96, 95, 96.
95, 96.
Yeah. We
Cell phone, maybe.
No,
no
you're right,
cell
Matt.
phone.
No, you're right. It was 96 because it was going into Brent Wright's senior year. It was that summer. So it was summer 96. You're right. So it's and I was single, and I basically had a bed, a small couch, and a TV set. That's all I had in the apartment I lived in. And then I had a phone that was against the wall, like right next to my bed. So, and it had the screen for caller ID on the phone. If I saw M. Figure on my phone, one more time that summer, I was going to drive to the school he was at and literally hit him over the head with a baseball bat. Like, he wore my rear end out. And I just met the guy like a month earlier. I'm like, this guy, leave me alone.
What was the kid's name? He loved pro wrestling. Antonio Latimer?
Oh, Latimer. Yeah. Antonio Latimer, Puerto Rican, Poruco.
Yeah.
Like, war Jay. Like, talk about, like, he's a Coach Pitino, like everyone in Kentucky, the full court press, the whole stuff. Well, he believed in it, and that's, when he was the assistant at Odessa, the head coach, Orlando Ontiveros, gave him a lot of go. You coach it. I'm the head coach on paper, and I'm going to support what you do, and I manage the people, but you coach the strategy. So Matt used to run the practice, and it was like watching a Pitino Billy Donovan practice. It was all full court press. Well, he turned that thing loose on me the whole summer. I was like, yo, leave me alone, man. I got to teach class in the morning. I don't want to talk to you. But that's how it started.
The nights and when you first got those cell phones, you had daytime minutes.
Oh yeah.
And then you had after 9 o'clock.
That's exactly right.
So when my minutes kicked in, I started blowing Frank up. Well, actually 9 o'clock was 10 o'clock his time.
Oh, hey, you knew it was important if you called him and used your actual minutes back then.
Absolutely.
The young kids have no idea what we're talking about.
Well, that run from about 96 to 98, Frank had 11 Division I players on his team. So he had some pretty good players that everybody wanted. So it wasn't only me blowing him up.
No, that's Anthony Grant, same thing. Him and Anthony, Anthony at the time was already like a dear friend of mine. Matt, I just met. And but those two guys wore me, and my beeper, beep, beep. I'm like, stop. I just turned the beeper off. I'm tired of listening to that.
I wore Frank out so bad one summer. He was coaching, I think it was Coast to Coast Elite or something like that with Tony Peugeot. And you'd gotten food poisoning in Augusta.
Oh my God, yes. Wow.
Wow. That's when I got Cornelius Wright.
Oh my God, yes, that's exactly. Holy cow.
You're banging on the door to get players from all over, and
Frank's got food poisoning. He's running an AAU program, and he had a 6'7" kid named Cornelius Wright, and that kind of started the Miami High to Odessa pipeline.
Yeah. So, hey, Jay, I still had some great. I was single back then. I had some great. Jay, you would have liked me when I was single. I had some great social activity and energy.
Well, you already said we could be roommates. We'd just have one TV, and that's about it in the apartment. So you and I are probably on the same page.
Jay, all I'll say in 96, I think it was summer 95, I don't remember. All I'll say is camp went from Monday to Thursday. And so Donnie Jones is new. They had just got the job at Florida. So Thursday comes and he sees me about, 10 o'clock in the morning. He goes, "Hey man, have you seen Frank?" I said, "Yeah, I seen him last night." "No, I mean, have you seen him this morning?" "No, I haven't seen him this morning." So when he says you would have liked him, Jay?
Yeah. He's a changed man now.
Well, I used to go. I get hired at Northeastern, Jay, and I'd fly to Odessa. I'd go recruit Western Kansas. I'm telling you, Western Kansas is in Western Texas, and I'd go to Odessa and I'd land. One time I landed in Dallas and drove out there, which is a brutal drive. It's like 6 hours.
It's awful.
But I'd get in there. Matt and I would go out. And then I'd wake up the next day, or he'd wake up and go teach class, and I'd sleep in his apartment all day. Then I'd go see them practice or play a game, and I spend another night, and then I get out of there. But
poor Coach Figger has to get up and actually go and function and do all.
I actually have to work.
Does, yeah. Well, so how did you get in? Give us the storyline here of how you got into coaching and where that began. Obviously, we're talking about junior college here, Odessa, but it starts before that, doesn't it?
Yeah, Wabash Valley, 92, 93, I started working for Pat Smith, who was a a fellow Kentuckian. Just like Frank, I wore him out and wouldn't leave him alone. And I will say this for any young person who wants to get into coaching, go coach junior college first.
Yes, sir.
That will
What does that do for you?
well, it teaches you how to do everything. I mean, from folding laundry to driving kids wherever they need to go, academics, recruiting, setting up the camera. Just you have the guy I started working for, Pat. I had a list of 110 things to do every day when I walked in the office at 6:30 in the morning. He was one of those regimented guys. So he would always ask me, he says, "You still want to coach?" And I never left.
And you got no budget, Matt. There's no budget for salaries, no budget for recruiting, no budget for meals. There's no budget. You got to make
No. Pat he used to love eating at Hardee's. They don't have Hardee's up here. But he would tell the guys, listen, you get a large fry, get a large hamburger, and get a large drink, and go see if the coaches eat for free. That's kind of how it goes in junior.
Negotiate it.
Yeah, you have to negotiate.
Got to get
Jay,
too.
Jay, I'm not going to predict the future, but Matt's really good at what he does, and he's going to be unbelievable helping us. But you got to help me on this one now. If we can keep him around here to really dig his feet in and help the way he has in both places we've been at together, we got to get a Whataburger built somewhere.
Absolutely.
Oh,
I'm
in on Whataburger. Yeah.
I'm like, if we build a Whataburger, Matt, we don't even have to pay his salary. You can use his money for NIL to get players.
Absolutely.
I'm just telling you, he'd be. So Jay, you got to help me on this.
Okay, so that was the first place I ever found that they had the it was like the ketchup, but it was in a dunking like form versus.
Yeah, it's probably the greatest fast food restaurant in America, hands down.
Oregon, the franchise.
It was founded in Corpus Christi, Texas. I've been to the first Whataburger ever founded.
Whataburger Field down there. Yeah, sure. Coach, so when you talk about working here when Frank calls you, I guess, what does he say to you? Hey, we have an opening here. What goes through your mind as a guy that's been a head coach, the last, decade, in charge of your own program? How do you get to Massachusetts, and what was that conversation like when you and Frank connected?
Well, my first time he hired me, he called. I was at the University of Arkansas, and he says, "Yo, man, where you at?" I said, "I'm sitting in my apartment." He said, "You want a job?" I said, "Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow." So that's how that went. I was sitting in.
That's not true. You said, "I'll be there in 3 hours and 45 minutes."
Wow. That was kind of, and that's true. I went to the car dealership in Fayetteville, went to the airport, rented a car, and drove to Manhattan. So, and I would tell you this: everybody told me I was making the worst decision of my life, and it turned out to be the greatest decision of my life.
From going from Arkansas to K-State.
Yeah, exactly.
Was there because it wasn't perceived as a better place?
Correct. But they didn't know. Nobody knew who Frank was, and soon they learned who he was. But this time around, it was kind of the same process. The only thing I had to do was ask my wife, and I said, "Frank, I'm going to say yes, but I got to ask my wife." And I went in there, and I thought it was going to be a harder conversation. She said, "I guess we're moving to Massachusetts." So,
yeah,
it's not a hard sell to come work for him. Frank lets you be who you are, and he lets you coach. He lets you teach. He lets you be involved. I've worked for other guys before that, and maybe I was one of those guys that as a coach, you didn't feel like you were doing nothing but standing there and officiating, or whatever as an assistant. And Frank leaves you alone. So he lets you do your work. And, the guys that really work, you couldn't work for a better person.
We were going over this last show about your resume and the success you had at Austin P. I think there was 3 of the best years that they had ever had with you as the head coach. How did you build that program and ultimately get it to the place that they were at when you left?
Well, you can't do some of the things that you did then. I will say that, first of all. I walked in and I had 2 plans. One was when the kids told the truth, and one when they didn't. So when I sat down and I had one plan, one script, and if they didn't follow the first script, I was going with script 2. So I ended up going with script 2. And I just told them, hey, this is Survivor Island. That was for, I think there was 9 guys returning from the team, and I finished with 4. And I just got, I got lucky, man. You got to get lucky with having a good player. I had a freshman coming in, named Terry Taylor that he was freshman of the year, ended up being freshman of the year over John Morant. And so he averaged about 17 a game as a freshman. And this is before guys put their name in the portal, whatever. So Terry stayed for 4 years. So I had probably the last 2, because John Morant was in that league for 2 years and Dylan Windler was in that league. They're both first-round draft picks, but I probably had the best player in the league for the last 2 years. So that's a big start. And then we got lucky in some recruiting, but I transferred a lot of the philosophies that I spent 10 years with Coach Martin. And I learned one thing: people don't like that ball pressure, and they don't like throwing that ball to the wing. It just puts your head down, and we just made teams play uncomfortable. And offensively, we were very aggressive. So it helped turn the program, and we were doing it. The one thing was we were doing it with players that probably weren't as good at Murray State and as good at Belmont. But we would just out tough a lot of guys and stuff like that. So that's kind of where the success began.
Coach Martin, I just heard Matt use the word lucky a couple of times, and I think he's being humble because it's the residue of design, right? That's the saying. I mean, is it luck or is it preparation and hard work that you put into that sets you up for success like that?
I think it's all the above. You can prepare as hard as you want, but things don't fall in place a certain way, or the right players don't. Jay, you pick up a piece of paper and there's like 20 basketball players on it, and you got to figure out which one to recruit. They all look good. You got to figure out which one to recruit. And sometimes you spend 6 months recruiting somebody and he don't come and you're miserable. And it's the best thing that could ever happen to you, because that guy would not have fit in your program. You fell in love for whatever you saw, but it didn't fit. And there's other times that you spend 2 weeks recruiting somebody and you take them, why not? I got a scholarship open, just bring him in. And he's the best thing that ever happens for you. And it's, like I share this one all the time, and I'm going to share one name, not both. To get a McDonald All-American, I was kind of not told to, but if you take this other guy, it'll go a long way to help you get the McDonald All-American. So that other guy was a guy named Rodney Magruder. And I took Rodney Magruder. Well, Rodney Magruder became an unbelievable. I lucked into that one. I wasn't even recruiting him. and I, so I started recruiting Rodney. I thought he was a good player, but I wasn't fully committed to him. And he ends up committing right away. And because he commits right away, we get the other guy. And Fig was with me. He remembers. And Rodney becomes an all Big 12 player, becomes an NBA guy. He and I were just texting last week. So there's a little bit of everything. It's what I told you earlier. Sometimes you the signs are there for you, and if you don't pay attention, it goes away. But if you pay attention, that's where the luck comes in. because it just kind of falls on your lap and things happen. And sometimes it's that ball going in the basket. Sometimes it's that there's a pile of bodies on the floor and the ball just pops out. How's it end up in that guy's hand over there? I got no idea. But it's that
I'm
team's
talking about
worst. It's the team's worst free throw shooter. So you follow the worst free throw shooter. How'd that happen? You know, it's just one of those deals.
It's reminded me of the St. Joe's game from last year.
That's luck on the other side, big boy.
Coach, Coach Fig, when you talk about, your philosophy and, who you are as a coach, head coach, assistant coach, what are some of the characteristics that you think you bring to the table as a coach?
Well, the one thing I hope is being a head coach. I've joked with this. I think everybody should be a head coach before they become an assistant, and that's backwards. Because when I spent 10 years trying to think what Frank was going through, sitting in that chair, it's the loneliest job in the world at times, because you don't have someone to vent to, you don't have someone to tell your problems to, and you constantly deal with problems every single day. And so I felt like I knew what he was going through on a daily basis. But when I sat in that chair, I knew what he was going through on a daily basis. So I hope this time around, I have a better understanding now of what happens to him on a daily basis. So I can hopefully prevent some of those things of getting to his plate, to keep that off his plate, so he can stay focused on the one thing that he needs to do, and that's coach the team. And that's what good assistants need to be. They need to keep problems off the head coach's plate and not create problems for the head coach. And I've had a lot of assistants, and the ones that don't give you problems are the good ones, and the one that bring you problems you got to get rid of. So hopefully I'm better equipped this time around to help not create problems for Frank, as so to speak. Because I'd go back and sit there and think after I became a head coach, and I'd go, well, shit, I did the same thing.
Yeah.
That was the same thing I did, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And now I realize it from his lens that, hey man, you got to keep that off his plate. He's got so many things to deal with. You got to keep it off his plate. So hopefully that's the thing that I can help him with better than I did the first time around. Clean up some things that that being a head coach, you understand.
Hey Jay, I got to.
That's pretty insightful. Thank you, Coach.
Yeah. Jay, I got to share that to give you perspective of this wonderful answer he just gave you. Okay, let me give you a little perspective of real here. So we're at South Carolina, and I go out. I get my rear end suspended because I yell too much, and it's the second to last game of the season. I get suspended on a Tuesday, so we're off from practice on Wednesday. We're playing last game of the season on a Saturday. So at Mississippi State. So I wake up Wednesday morning. He had left to go recruiting, and I wake up Wednesday morning. They call me in, and they're like, "Hey, we got a clip on TV that you said this on the sideline." I kind of said something like that, but not exactly what you're saying, but yeah, okay. Well, that's not acceptable. And I was like, okay, well, I apologize. Like, what do you want me to do? I'll apologize publicly. That's what we're trying to do here is hard. And they went to the player. The player said, "I'm good. Like, that's my guy." Like, no, we got to suspend you. So they suspend me. So I call Matt Wednesday, I don't know, 1:00 in the afternoon. I'm like, "Matt," he goes, "Yeah, I just got off a plane." I'm like, "Well, buy your plane ticket, come right back. I just got suspended. You got to run practice the rest of the week." So he thought I was joking. He does. He gets on the plane, comes back. I told him, I said, "Matt, I can't help you the next 2 weeks. Like, if you need my help, call me. I'll do whatever you need." I've never been in this moment right now. I need to take a deep breath and figure this out right now. I was in conflict. my daughter had a cheerleading tournament on Saturday at the same time that Matt and the fellas were playing at Mississippi State. So Matt always used to say, "Hey, Frank, like, you should share 1 month of your salary with your staff. like being the head coach, you should blah, 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 and that blah, 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 blah." And I just sit there and listen. I say, "All right, man." And so they're playing Mississippi State. I'm inside a facility, no reception. I can't watch a game. I didn't want to watch a game. So my wife says to me, "I know you don't want to know, but I got to tell you, they're getting ready to win." I was like, "What?" So I go outside the building and I pull the game cast on my phone, and they had just won. I'm telling you, when you're a coach, you know about how much time it takes to get from the court to the locker room. So I kind of time it. I call his number. He answers on the first ring. Says, "You can keep your job. I don't want your job. I don't want your job." So this is Saturday. That's after a win. So now they fly back. Now we're off Sunday. I'm at peace. I'm so proud of these guys that through my situation, they were still able to come together and win that game. So now I'm at practice Monday, and I'm like, all right, let's run. Run the 2-play. And this one guard we have, Brenton Williams, he runs it differently. I'm like, "Brent, what are you doing?" I said, "Run the 2-play." And he kind of he was a real quiet kid. He kind of doesn't move, and he looks over at Matt. So I see him looking at Matt. I look at Matt. Matt looks at me, and he's like, "I changed the play." And then he told Brett Williams, "Hey, here's the deal. I know what Frank's been telling you. All right, but in this game, you need to shoot 15 threes. If you don't shoot 15 threes, I'm going to be really upset." So Brett was just firing them away, and it worked. He won. So I said, "Hey, don't run it the way he told you." That's what we did.
Matt, what do you remember about stepping into that role for that game? And I guess that does take. I mean, you do change, you tweak something there to come away with a W.
Well, the first thing I remember is good old Andy Astley sitting there with when I got, because I was in New York, and by the time I got back to Columbia, it was close to about midnight. And so Andy knocks on my door about 1 o'clock in the morning and gives me my computer and all the games uploaded of Mississippi State. He said, "Here, Coach wanted you to have this." So, I was going to watch the kid play, come back, do the assistant thing. Here's the great thing about being an assistant. When things get hard, sometimes you can step away from the muck and go watch a kid play and catch your breath. As a head coach, you're in it every day. So I know I didn't eat very much, and it was a weird deal. We went to Mississippi State, and I told Brent Williams, I said, "Look, man, I want you to." I said, "This is one game. Just free your mind. I said, you got to shoot 15 threes. We don't win." And that kid made one probably at about 35 feet towards the end of the game. He just looked at me and gave me that Michael Jordan kind of. It went in. It was just one of those things that were lined up, but it put me in a world of quick having to make decisions, and I wasn't really worried about what happened after the game. I was just worried about how I could carry Coach Martin's voice and everything for those next couple of days to help get us into a right position. And the kids responded, and we ended up winning the game, and they played, and I think they got to play a little. They played free, and it just helped them. It helped their minds, a little bit. So,
yeah, if I can give a little perspective there, because I think about this all the time. When you're to Matt's point when he started saying about you should be a head coach before you're an assistant. When you're an assistant, everybody loves to listen to your opinions, but nobody pays attention to your decisions. When you're a head coach, no one cares about your opinions. They care about your decisions. And that's a difficult, because it's completely different. You're an assistant, like you go to a alumni function, you give opinions, but you leave there and everyone's like, wow, he's got a great idea. But they don't pay attention to whatever decisions you make. When you're a head coach, they don't care. Whatever comes out of your mouth, they say it's BS. He's just coach speak, coach speak. Now they pay a lot of attention to every decision you make. And that's understanding how to manage that it's not easy.
It's the most difficult thing in the world. We wouldn't be on this podcast right now if the decisions that I had made wouldn't have put me on this podcast. I'll just leave it at that.
Why not? So if you'd still be a head coach, you wouldn't come on like.
Well, I wasn't invited.
like we just started this. Like, what are you talking about?
Let's be frank.
Let's be
let's be frank.
Hey, okay, let's be frank. So here's a great Matt Figure, Brad Underwood recruiting story. So our point guard play is really bad. We got to South Carolina. Our best point guard was Bruce Ellington, who was a wide receiver on the football team. And so it's January, and I told him and Brad, I'm like, yo, we need a point guard. So Underwood comes in. We got this JUCO guy, blah, 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 blah. You know, Underwood, we call him Brad Facts. Like, he comes in with all these great ideas.
There's facts and there's Brad facts.
Yeah, that things that
there's
are
the
ready
truth
to happen, and then it's a Brad fact. That means it had no validity to it whatsoever. So he comes in, he goes, we got this guy, blah, blah, we're going to get him. Just talk to the brother, blah, blah. So it's late in the year now, and I'm with the brother, and Brad's got me thinking, like, this guy, he's coming to school. Well, I get a phone call, and it's like, hey, just call and let you know we're going to Texas A&M. I don't know, what? Brad, So now we're in the office the next day. And I said, okay, so we lost the guy. It's part of recruiting. You're like, it happens. You're going to get told no. So now Matt's our recruiting coordinator, so he's supposed to be the brains behind.
I coordinate recruiting.
And you know, and Brad knows everyone in the business. So I walk in, I'm like, all right, who's the next guy on the table? Well, these two intelligent human beings are looking at me like, what do you mean? I lost my mind. I was like, we're in the middle of the season here, man. I we need a point guard. Matt just sat there and looked at me, and he knew I was pissed, and he looked at me, and Underwood, Brad's different bird. Brad, like, Brad, I don't want to hear this right now. And Matt just looked at me and said, hey, Frank, I'm going to get a flight later today. I'm going to be gone for 7 days. When I get back, I'll have a point guard. If I don't have a point guard, you can fire me. And he left, and guess what? He came back, brought Dwayne Notice with him. And Dwayne Notice ends up being our starting guard for 4 years and helped us get to a Final Four.
Is that true? Do those words come out of your mouth?
It's 100% fact. That is not a Brad fact. That is a fact.
No,
Frank had came into it. We were in my office, kind of the same size as this one. And he said, yo, man, I'm not happy at this. And as a grown man, you got to accept the responsibility. And I looked at him and I said, hey, Frank, if I can't find a better player for you and the next, I'll resign. You can fire me. And so,
you know where he came? He came to New England. He left Columbia, South Carolina, and came up here. Found this notice.
St. Thomas More.
Wow.
I started my journey in New England, and it finished in Phoenix, Arizona, 7 days later. And the crazy thing was too, we had to sign. What was it, Frank? 6 kids with 5 visits.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
6 kids, 5 visits. And so we couldn't miss on anybody else because we had taken over and there was probation at South Carolina. So we were down visits at the time. And so we had to sign 6 kids with 5 visits. So
figure out one.
You talk about how luck comes into play sometimes when you're saying that. You know, Dwayne Notice, although he wasn't a point guard, so to speak, he ended up being a 4-year starter. And it was a kid that, you know, he put the nail in the coffin for us to go to the Final Four. Yeah, you got to steal in New York City and dunk the ball, and it was over. But that's just how the foundation starts getting built.
That's awesome. You know what I'm hearing, and we'll let you go here. We've been rambling on for a while. Matt, I'm hearing, Coach, what I'm hearing is problem solving from Matt. Hey, this is an issue. Great. I will figure out how to make it happen.
Well,
Those people are invaluable, man.
Well, that's, see, I'm a listener. You ask me to read, I get bored, but I'm a listener. And I just heard what came out of Matt's mouth, which is, I hope now after being a head coach, I can come back and be better to help Frank. I used to tell Matt all the time, like, Matt, you're unbelievable. You screw everything up, but then fix it. Well, he said he understands things better. He is a problem solver, but he's been used to solving his own problems in the past. Hopefully now he don't create no problems. And
Absolutely.
we can just fix problems, which, no, I say that jokingly. It's Perry Clark, and who Matt was behind the scenes with when Perry was my assistant. Perry came in my office one day, and Perry had been Brad had been a head JUCO coach, but Brad had left, so he wasn't in South Carolina anymore. We're trying to build that South Carolina program. And it was hard. It was hard. It was apathy, a lot like here when we got here. People wouldn't come to games. It was broken, and a lot of negativity internally about it. So we going through all that's not easy. And Perry Clark comes in my office one day and says, "You need something?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." He's like, "Frank, seriously, do you need something?" I said, "Perry, like, come on, man, like, stop, leave me alone. I'm good. I'm in the middle of something." He's like, "Hey, man, like, seriously, like, I've been a head coach. Like, when you're a head coach, people only come in asking for things. They need something from you, whether it's your energy, your mind, your problem solving, your money, your time. They're all asking for something. Like, and he's, so whatever, you need something, let me know." So he leaves the office. And I sat there and I was like, wow, ain't nobody ever said that to me before. And he's right. As an assistant coach, very few people ask you for things. As a head coach, it is an onslaught of asking. So you're always exhausted from so many people asking of you, that's why the head coach makes more money. So Jay, I'm not going to close the podcast today. I'm going to let you do that, but I hope Matt understands why when he used to sit there and say that the head coaches share 1 month of his salary with the staff, why he needs to revisit those thoughts now that he's been a head coach for a little while.
Well, I was going to end on that, but I just have to ask, Matt, you've been around, we've got this team here for a short span, 2 weeks. I wanted to get your impressions as to, what you've seen from them in competition on the court and what the talent level looks like.
I'm trying to get to know the guys. I'm trying to observe and get them to earn my trust, get them to trust me. I like our competitive edge. I think we've got some guys that compete. I think we've got some personality. There's going to be, we're going to have depth. It's a team that, right now we're not in any adversity, so everybody's good. But there's going to be some ability there of guys that I think will create an image of who Coach Martin is, and I think we'll be able to be competitive.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Coach. Frank, you got anything else?
July 4th, Jay, give us advice. Where should we go July 4th in Western Massachusetts?
I think they'll shoot fireworks off over the Connecticut River, out by the Oxbow, but I gotta double check on that. I can't.
Is there a spot where maybe like sit down and enjoy
there, or they used to do it up in Greenfield off of Point Seat Tower. So let me gather if they're still doing those things or not. All right. A lot of times they've moved these things to like not on the 4th because other people are doing things during the 4th of July. I know they had them at Look Park last week, but If I don't talk to you by then, have a happy 4th of July. And well, hopefully I get to go to the Red Sox game with you guys tomorrow. We'll see.
I hope so. You
yeah.
better be part of the trip.
Rip my fastball. Coach Figger, so excited to get to know you. Thanks so much for taking the time. And this has been your first soiree into the Just Being Frank podcast, man. Thanks so much.
Listen, I appreciate Jay, and I can't leave without, throwing a little jab back. By now, Frank is the great enabler and divider. He will enable the situation, and he'll make two people divide. That's how he uses his wits.
He likes to see them compete against each other, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
Hey, I got a great idea for a new podcast. Brad Facts. and we just have Underwood, just ask him a question. He's going to give you an answer. And I'm telling you, 99.9, because he's an analytics guy. All he does is throw numbers at.
Look, we have to get him on to defend himself now. All right.
Brad Facts.
The ink's drying as we speak.
The ink is drying as we speak. That's the stuff he would say, Jay. And whatever he said, the next 2 hours later, it
sounds good.
Polar opposite. It's
so good. I know I got to go, but we were in a meeting one time, and our academic advisor, the lady who was over all of academics at the University of South Carolina, Maria Hickman, goes, "Is this a fact or is this a Brad fact?"
Permeated through the university. Oh my, became a thing. Wow. All right. We'll get Coach Underwood. I am here to defend you. All right. We'll get you on. We'll hear your side of the story. He's Coach Matt Figger. Welcome to Massachusetts. He, of course, is Just Being Frank. Until next time, my name's Jay Byrne. I'm saying so long from Amherst.